We're live, Mr. Gillian Doig. Good morning and welcome to the whole of the Saints community that'll be enjoying and watching the edition of the Saints Olympic Connect. It gives me great pleasure next to interview one of our own Saints parents, and as if that's not enough, she decided to be the team manageress of the national women's hockey side, and let's say not the easiest of environment at the moment. Good morning, Gillian Doig, and welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'm sitting in a very, very chilly potch at the moment. I'm not sure what Joburg weather's like, but it's pretty chilly out here.
Well, it's always said that in Pretoria it's always a few degrees warmer, 4 or 5 degrees warmer in Pretoria, and in Potchefstroom it's always the opposite. It's normally 4 or 5, sometimes 10 degrees colder.
Yeah.
So you have a scarf. You dressed well.
Yeah.
Julie, lots happening in your space at the moment, and I think myself and a lot of people that are going to watch this interview are looking forward to hearing your stories as the climatic build-up in a day or two nears an end, or just the start.
Yeah.
But tell everyone, the parents, the coaches, many parents watching this, tell us about your journey in sport. Your son's obviously a phenomenal sportsman, and how you landed up being the national team manageress for our women's hockey team.
Okay, so I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I studied teaching and physical education in particular, and I think back in the day, and I was also a hockey player, and I think back in the day when they were looking for managers and coaches for various provincial teams, the phys ed staff tended to be, fairly good go-to people. So that's how I got started, and I managed it was called Southern Transvaal back then, the Southern Transvaal under-21s. I managed them for 7 years, and then from there got asked to manage the national under-21s, and took them with Ros Howell as the coach. So I obviously had a fantastic mentor there, and we went to the Junior World Cup in Buenos Aires in 2001. And that was going to be the end of my managerial career. And it was for a while. We then started our family, and hockey, I stopped playing. It sort of took a bit of a back foot. And then as the kids got older and started playing towards the end of their primary school careers, I got back into the managerial position for the district teams and the little provincial teams. And that again was really all that I was going to do. And then through getting back into hockey and meeting a couple of the players again, before Rob became the coach, because we lived fairly close to Saints and a lot of the camps were taking place at Saints, we would have some of the players staying at our home. We just helped out like that, in some small way. And then when Rob became the coach, he approached me and asked me if I would just like to step in temporarily to help the team up until the end of the tournament. There was a tournament in Valencia in Spain in 2019, which was a fairly important tournament for the girls to qualify for the Olympics. So I was supposed to be doing this job for 87 days. That was what Rob gave me as the timeline. But yeah, somehow I still happen to be here. So yeah, and now we're off to the Olympics tomorrow. So it's all very exciting, but certainly it was not expected.
Brings new meaning to the word temporary, Jill.
Yeah.
And 87 days is now probably 587 days. But what an experience you have ahead of you.
Yeah.
Tell me, Jill. So we're going to get to the exciting stuff. You've obviously been through a lot of, especially the last while. I mean, the last while, and notwithstanding what's happening in the country at the moment. Yeah. So my question to you is, what values are important to you as a leader and the team manager of our national women's hockey side, especially during these times, COVID times, and with what's currently happening in our country?
Yeah, I think what we try to instill in ourselves, the management team as well as the players, is to represent South Africa in the best way possible. To present the good side of South Africa, because there is a lot more good in South Africa than bad. And for me, this group of ladies represents all that is absolutely amazing about South Africa. They are young, they represent the future, they juggle sport, they juggle their lives, their career, they make sacrifices. They are extremely good role models for women in South Africa. And we just want to, as a team, I think, show those characteristics and those qualities. And when we put on the shirt, whether it's as management or whether it is as a player, when you pull on that shirt, you are representing yourself, your family, and your country to the world. And we want to show the world what we have and the best side of South Africa. And that's really what we aspire to as a team. We do our best on the field, or the players do their best on the field to produce the results. But yeah, just show what we're made of, what is good about our country. I think that's important at the moment.
Thank you, Jill. That's a beautiful answer. And if ever there's a cohort of people that are going through so much anxiety at the moment, it is so many of our national athletes who trained so hard to naturally go last year, and obviously are now looking to go this year. And I suppose that leads me on to my next question. What kept you and the girls positive during the COVID time? Take us through some of the processes and some of the mechanisms that you as a management team and a group of girls, really, and a national women's hockey team, what kept you positive during the COVID times? And finally, to this point.
Yeah, so it has been an absolute roller coaster. I mean, obviously, for the whole country and, well, the whole world, everybody is going through it. And when COVID started last year and we all went into lockdown, at that point, the Olympics were still happening last year. They'd not called them off yet. There was obviously talk, but I mean, that's obviously not a decision that's going to be made overnight or lightly. So when we went into full lockdown, there was extreme anxiety because we literally could not train, as you saw. And at that point, for about the first 3-4 weeks of lockdown, the Olympics was still happening. We still thought we would be getting on a plane and going. Little did we know. So that's where our sports scientist was absolutely incredible. Every single member of the squad was given a personalized program, whether they had a car park that they could go into, whether they had a balcony. Some of them only had flats with no outside exposure whatsoever. So Taryn designed the most unbelievable programs for the players that would allow, she asked them for an inventory of what equipment that they had. And if it meant using the couch to step up on, or whether it was the baked bean tins to use as weights, she made those programs for them and kept them sort of going like that, which was incredible. Then we had team meetings every week on Zoom, where we would connect with each other. Sort of every Sunday we would get together and have, coffee or wear a silly hat, or, we just had a bit of a fun time like that. Lots and lots of those WhatsApp fun games that were going on. We'd do it as a squad and play some games on WhatsApp and ask some questions and do some silly jokes, things like that. So we kept connected very much. Then the Olympics was called off, which was almost not a surprise by that stage, but still obviously was almost a dream shattered for many people. Then we carried on through lockdown, eventually as things opened up and we were allowed to train, so the training continued. But then with the Olympics being called off, we then had to start the selection process again. So the squad that had been cut then got extended again, and we went back to square one with the selection process, culminating in a camp in December when things had opened up again, and the squad again was selected in December and then slightly reduced in January. We then had 2 series planned for January, but then the second wave of COVID hit, so all of the teams that were due to come to South Africa then couldn't come to South Africa. So that again put us on another roller coaster of emotions, because the preparation is obviously difficult, when you're not playing against any international teams. And then you're sitting and watching the Pro League taking place, over in Europe. and we're sitting in South Africa with no competition whatsoever. So it does become quite emotionally tough, I must say. But we had our own centralized program, and that's where St Stithians obviously has been, absolutely incredible for us, because it has been our base in Johannesburg. And we got the team together every 2 weeks, from January through to June. And we trained at St Stithians for 4 days, twice a month, which was incredible. And which, we obviously are very, very grateful to you all for that, that opportunity. And that has been our Olympic preparation. Yeah.
Jill, listening to you, I think there are going to be some incredible stories of what, in this case, our women have been through to keep going. And just how much this has meant to them, how much it's meant to them to represent their country, which is obviously a life-changing experience. But when you mentioned baked bean cans and couches and all the like, and it's not simply doing it once, it's doing it for a couple of 100 days leading up to what would have been the previous Olympics and the current Olympics. That's kept them going. Throw in COVID, throw in all the respective challenges. I think there's a whole new level of resilience that these girls are going to have when they run onto the field.
Yeah.
Tell us, you're a mom, you're a top hockey player, you've managed. What is it that you love about being a leader?
I think I thought about this when I read that question, and I think this is probably my teaching background coming through as well. I think the best thing that one can do for anyone is to recognize the potential in somebody, and then secondly, to try and help that person reach that potential. That for me is really what it's all about. If you can see that somebody has got something special in them, and can achieve something, to try and help somebody achieve that. There's no greater, there really is no greater good than that, I would guess. As a coach, you obviously have a certain role to play, and that's Rob's role, and he gets something out of the girls on the field. But in the managerial position, you still need to create an environment that allows the girls to flourish and to reach that potential. And if you can take away some of the angst and some of the extraneous factors and make them, a little bit easier for the girls to cope with, and allow them to concentrate on what they need to do on the field, then I think the manager is doing a good job. That's, pretty much what
I would agree with you. And you've virtually answered my next question, which is non-negotiable KPIs to create the right environment. Yeah. And I would imagine that environment has changed, not even a daily, but almost an hourly basis with COVID tests, having to deal with the emotions of players. Yeah. Maybe Jill, share with us one of your biggest learning curves in your career, and I'm pretty sure it might span over the last 18 odd months. But what is one of the biggest learning curves that you'd like to share with us?
So that again, I go right back to when I first started teaching. And I was teaching at a fantastic school. It was my first job. I'd come through college. I'd done pretty well. I'd sort of realized that I had a passion for teaching. And I think that's also important, especially for the youngsters of today. If you can find something that you're passionate about, you generally will be good at it. So I started off my teaching career, and basically the school that I was teaching at almost told me that I wasn't good enough, because I had an 8 Ed as my qualification from JCE, 4 years there. And the school that I was teaching at was very, very keen on their teachers having degrees. So I was asked for 2 years, when would I be changing to a degree? In my own time, at my own expense, as a first, second year teacher. Now, if you can cast your mind back to those days, you do not have either the time or the money to do pretty much any extra studying. And it became a huge thing for me, to the point that somebody got in. I stayed in my job, but they did employ somebody else who they felt had a degree, or who had a degree, and they felt would be better at the job, although I stayed in my job. So I had to work alongside this person, and well, it was a disaster because she wasn't very good at her job, and I was still pretty good at mine. And it really was a huge learning curve for me. In that I sort of believed that I was in the right job and I was good at my job, and I never gave up. And I actually left the school. I did leave, and I went to my next school, where I stayed for many, many years. And yeah, it was a very tough lesson. I came very close to giving up teaching, but obviously decided to carry on, and I'm very glad that I did. I had the support of friends and family who told me not to give up. And I'm very, very glad that I didn't, because I loved my teaching career. And it's really not about necessarily what's on paper, not all the time, absolutely. But at that particular moment in time, I'm glad that I didn't give up.
I tell you what, there's a song out there called I don't know what the school's name is. We're going to leave the school aside, but while you were telling your story, I thought of the song "Take a Look at Me Now." The rest I won't sing for fear of people. But your story reminds me of Richard Branson: hire for passion and personality, not for degree. You can get the degree later if one has the passion and personality.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Jill. I recently wrote an article, "The Value of a Great Coach," in a recent newsletter, and I still say one of the best coaches is the teachers in the classroom. I think Eddie Jones alluded to it last year.
Yeah.
If you're a teacher, you've got a connection with that child, and if you coach them on the sports field or manage them on the sports field, just an extension of that connection. It's an extension of that. So, well, I'm really glad you didn't leave the teaching profession, and isn't that an amazing story to tell?
Yeah. It was. When I did teach, just going to your point there, I was a biology and a phys ed teacher, so I got to see a lot of my students in the classroom and then on the sports field, and that crossover is so important, because sometimes some of them were better in the classroom and not so great on the sports field, and vice versa. And when you're seeing them in both environments, again, it comes back to being able to get the most out of them. And if you have a relationship with them in the classroom, you can take that onto the sports field, and again, vice versa. And you can make it work really well, and get children to achieve their potential that they maybe didn't think that they had, So,
absolutely, Jill.
yeah.
Listening to you in terms of what you've just mentioned, I think our country, and we spoke about the best of our country, there are so many amazing pockets of excellence in the teaching space and the coaching space. And a large part of why our school sports is so successful for both boys and girls are just outstanding teachers at the school level that really enable the school space. And as you correctly say, they've just got that relationship, that connection. Those students love those teachers, and they'll do anything for them. So yeah, I really enjoyed that journey. And look, we'll leave the HTIP to where you are now. Now you have an honorary doctorate in Olympic team management, about to get on a plane shortly. Let's enjoy the last few questions where it's really open mic. Talk to us through how do you feel about attending the Olympics? Any insights, nerves, anxiety? Go for it. It's all yours. Share with us a few stories.
The Olympics are big enough anyway, but you throw COVID into it, the anxiety around the COVID testing and the results, it's indescribable, actually. And anyway, it's we're through it at the moment. We've had our 2 tests this week, Monday and Tuesday, so we're all good to go for tomorrow, onto the plane. But it doesn't stop there. We get tested on arrival in Japan. We've already been hearing of teams that have been, told to turn around and go back because they're testing positive on arrival. So again, the anxiety that we're hearing, or the anxiety that is creating, is awful. Once we get through that, we'll think positively. And once we get through that, we get to the village. We then are in isolation for 3 days, but we are allowed to work and train as a group. And so, but as long as we have COVID tests every day for the first 3 days, so we've still got that to contend with. And then I think they go into daily swabbing thereafter. So it's an ever-present fear, to be frank. There is no other word to describe it. It does make us anxious. We are very fearful. We have 2 planes, 2 airports to negotiate before we arrive in Tokyo. And who knows, what can happen. So that is almost, it's hard for that not to be the focus. I think once we get to Tokyo and get into the village, hopefully then we'll be able to relax and enjoy it. It is obviously going to be a completely different games to the norm. There are no spectators. We heard that last week. Originally, there were going to be spectators. Then it got downgraded to only Japanese spectators. Now they've said not even Japanese spectators. So it's going to be empty stadiums. I'm not too sure, what the effect of that is going to be. It's going to be quite strange. But as a team, we're going to make the most of it. We're living in the moment. We're a team. We're with the guys' hockey team as well. So, we're going to obviously make the most of it. It is still the opportunity of a lifetime. You hear about history being made. We are living through this history at the moment. And, in a few years' time, we're going to be able to talk about the Olympics that happened during a pandemic. And it's just going to have a completely different spin on it to, I would imagine, any other Olympics. But and what's happened in the country the last few days has also affected us tremendously, because you almost feel guilty about feeling excited about going to the Olympics. You've got to get over your anxiety to start with the COVID testing and the results. Then you want to allow yourself to feel excited. Then you feel guilty about feeling excited because we're watching all the news and the devastation and the destruction. Then you wake up this morning and you read all the Facebook posts about how communities have stood together to defend their shopping malls and, defend their suburbs, and people offering services and offering their time and energy to go and help people clean up and open up their businesses again. And, then you take heart from that. So it's just such an emotional roller coaster at the moment, I think, for everybody. Us especially, because we're away from our families and our friends at the moment. We're in Potchefstroom all together with the hockey teams, but not seeing anyone else. So again, we're a little bit removed, and we will be removed for the next couple of weeks too. And people are obviously worried. There's girls in the team who have a lot of family members in Natal. Their businesses have been affected. And it's, we feel for them because they're also having to worry about them. It's a very strange and weird space, I must be honest. Yeah.
Jill, listening to you, I to be honest, I can't imagine what you're all going through. And I think many people that get to watch this video can't imagine what you'd be going through. And it's interesting listening to you saying, sure, you feel excited on the one hand, but guilty on the other. And just for so many people who don't understand what you've been through in the team space, I just want to share with you, I really don't feel that you or the girls should feel guilty at all, because you've been working hard, not for 4, but for the better part of 5 years now for the Olympics. It's been consistent work, consistent sacrifice. And now with the emotional roller coaster ride, to have the privilege of representing our country, it's probably more needed. It's probably more needed now for our teams, for our men and our women hockey teams to get in the field, for our girls to get in the field, so that one can give us hope during this time. So Shame, you guys have worked so hard for this, and there are a few hurdles you still need to jump through. Yes. I can't imagine what you've been through, but just know that all of you deserve this moment. And I really hope that the stars align and that the good Lord is kind to all of our Olympic athletes going over there to represent the country, where it's arguably more important now than ever before that we see our national athletes representing us. Gilly, a final question, probably somewhat emotive, listening to you. Before we wrap up, do you have a final message for the Saints family, for the parents, for the students, for the alumni that are listening to you and going to be watching our many alumni and coaches and team managers in Tokyo in a few weeks' time?
Absolutely. Obviously, as I said a little bit earlier, St Stithians has been the most incredible, has provided us with the most incredible support, not only to, in terms of the fields and the facilities that you've allowed us to use. And, the facilities are world class. So, we can, we can go to the Olympics knowing that we've had incredible support in that area. We have absolutely nothing to complain about in the slightest. The support that you've given Rob, the head coach, is also absolutely amazing. The time that he's been allowed to take off to coach the team and be with the team, unbelievable. But then it extends to the whole Saints family, and you, as a member of the Saints community, whenever there is a crisis or someone in need or whatever, the Saints community have this incredible way of pulling together and supporting, Saints people. And there've been a couple of instances recently where this has been very, very evident. And it extends to the Olympics. It's not like we're in dire need, but the support that we get just from people following our Facebook posts, our Instagram feed, the support that various members of the Saints community have given us from a time point of view, financially, just general support. It's absolutely incredible. And, we're very, very proud to be a member of the St Stithians community and to represent you over in Tokyo. And just know that, every time we take the field, pull that shirt on, stand on the side of the field, we are representing not only the country, but all of our families and friends and the Saints community, in my instance, and a few of the players and Rob's instance as well. We are representing you over there and are very, very grateful and thankful and aware of the support that we have been given. And we truly, truly appreciate it. Sometimes it's hard to say, how much we do appreciate it, but we're all very, very aware of what we've been given in terms of support. So we will be thinking of you all.
Gilly, we'll be watching you all. And I'm going to close just to say that on behalf of the St Stithians community, we'd like to wish you a safe, memorable, and truly exciting Olympic journey. You all deserve this. And you mentioned something beautiful early on in the interview, which I really think holds true, not just for the national women's hockey side, but all of the Olympic athletes that are going over there, specifically the Saints athletes. You're representing all that is good with South Africa at the moment, and you're going to go over there, represent us. You stand for all the right values that we all look to espouse. So, Gilly, safe travels. Love to you all. Have an amazing experience. We look forward to watching you and hearing of the subsequent journeys, travels, trials, and tribulations upon your return.
Thank you. Thanks, Adrian. Appreciate it very much.